Hello there, Escambia County Public School teachers. Whenever anyone mentions the word coding to you, what sort of things come to your mind? When I was in the classroom, I thought, coding's not for me. It's too hard. And I don't teach computer classes. I also thought, nah, coding looks neat, but I don't have time to learn something that's complicated and new. But here's the thing, coding is actually for everyone, no matter the level or age. Students and teachers alike want to feel successful. And part of our role as an educator is to make sure our students have the skills they need to be successful adults. And coding can play a role in that. So join the team, the Instructional Technology Professional Learning Team that is, as we take you on a journey through creative coding and show you that you can do this. Before we start though, we want to give you a friendly reminder. It's important to stay vigilant in protecting students and their personally identifiable information. So keep this in mind as you're going through any online platforms or programs. Today, I'm going to take you through the Hour of Code website and give you a general overview. The Hour of Code website can be found at hourofcode.com/US. On this website, we're going to be looking at block coding as well as Python coding. Now, my role is to give you an overview of the website itself, and the rest of my team members are going to take you through some suggested activities as well as introduce our Canvas course. So without further ado, here's the Hour of Code website. When you go to the website, the landing page looks like this. It's interactive and it has all kinds of information. There's a tutorial video on what Hour of Code actually is, and it shows how many other people in the world are using Hour of Code. Clicking on Activities is going to bring up this page. Again, it's going to show you going beyond an hour, and it has how to host an hour or a how-to guide for you, clickable right here. You also have the different grade levels on these tabs, and these are the suggested grade levels, but you can mix and match as needed. You can also filter for beginner or comfortable. Running along the side, you're going to see some other filter options. You can sort by what's recommended, who's created them, classroom technology, topics, the activity type, length, accessibility, and the two languages we mentioned before, Block and Python. At the top is the How To tab, and this gives you some extra information as educators. It also shows you how you can promote within your school and community. And I really like the frequently asked questions section of the website with these easy drop-downs. So this is our general overview of the website. Now let me turn it over to my other team members as they walk you through the activities and our Canvas course. And now here's Diane as she takes you through the ins and outs of block coding.
In this part of the video, we will walk you through a couple of coding activities you can do with your students. Let's think about a few things to consider when choosing an activity. First, is it age appropriate? Is it on their reading level? And last, what experience, if any, do your students have with coding? To get started, we will go to the Hour of Code website and click on Activities. A very important filter I'm going to point out is Created By. This feature is important because some of the activities on this website take you to sites outside of code.org. These outside sites may or may not be approved for use in our school district. So I'm going to choose activities created by code.org because I know the free version of code.org is on the approval list for use in our district. Notice I also chose the type of technology I will be using. The first activity we're going to take a look at is Hello World. First, you're going to click on the icon. You will then get a pop-up window. In this window, you will see teacher notes and other helpful information about the activity. To get started with this activity, we're going to click on the short link. The short link takes you directly to the activity. There are various themes to choose from. The content of the activities are mostly the same. It just gives you a little bit of different images. So basically, they're the same, they just have a different look. I'm going to choose food. This puzzle is split into 4 main parts. On the left is the play space. This is where your sprites will show up. Sprites are 2D pictures of the game characters you can interact with, like a character or item in a story or a game. Mario and Pokemon characters are examples of sprites. Costume is used to describe a sprite's appearance. In the center, you will see the toolbox area that holds all the blocks you will need as you go through the activity. To the right of the toolbox is the workspace, where you would drag blocks to build your program. And finally, above the workspace, you will see the specific directions for each puzzle. If you want a hint, click on the light bulb. Many lessons in Code.org offer read-aloud options for students. Code.org offers an immersive reader for lesson instructions and text-to-speech read-aloud of the instructions. To start off, let's make a sprite. You will drag and drop Make a New Sprite from the toolbox to the workspace. This block allows you to give your sprite a costume in a location. To change the costume, click on the pull-down. To change the location, click on the pen icon in the location block, and then click where you want it to go. Now let's have the sprite introduce itself. To make the sprite say something, drag and drop the Say block and add it to your program. Make sure the costume selected in your Say block matches the costume in your sprite. When you press Run, the sprite will say whatever text you tell it to. So let's move to level 2. We are now in level 2. Our instructions say to give each sprite a different location. Press Run when you are finished. Notice we have 2 sprites here. I'm going to change the costume of my sprites. Next, I'm going to click on each pen location block to move the sprite to a different location. Then I'm going to click Run. We have now finished level 2, so I'll click Continue. I like to see all of my directions at once, which is a personal preference. So instead of scrolling, I'm going to make the instruction area a little bit larger so I can read the instructions at one time. So in level 3, we're going to add code to make each sprite say something. Press Run when you're finished, and then there's a challenge, set a background. So I'm going to first make the broccoli say something. And then notice here I have to change this to the carrot to make the sprites match. So now I'm going to play Run. And when I do, it gives me a pop-up letting me know that I've done something wrong. It says your sprites are in the same location. Move one of your sprites using the location block. So I'm going to reset it so you can see here that when I press Run, the carrot is on top of the broccoli. So I'm going to move the broccoli. Now I'm going to press Run. Okay, I'm going to go back because I want to change the background. So I'm going to keep playing and I'm going to set the background. And let's see what my choices are. Okay, since it's food, I guess I'll leave it as looks like a paper plate. So I will reset. Notice the background has changed. Okay, I noticed something else I wanted to change, so I'm going to say keep playing. I notice when the speech bubble appears, they're kind of on top of each other. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to edit the carrot's position to the other side. Now let's try and run it. All right, perfect. Now I can see the speech bubbles from both. Okay, I am finished with level 3, so I'm going to press continue. Okay, on to level 4. What's different? Notice the green blocks and the say block are completely detached. Now, why is that? Well, this is called an event. So it is detached. What makes it run? Okay, make sure to click on each sprite after pressing run. So I'm going to reset it, I'm going to run it, and then I'm going to press on each sprite, and then the speech bubble will appear. So on to level 5. Level 5. Let's make a sprite say something when you click it. Connect a say block under a when click block. Select the same costume. I'm going to press run. Okay, I'm going to go back and do the challenge. Make both sprites say something. I'm also going to change the background. So now I'm going to make the French fry. Say something. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to run it again. Now both of them say something, and my background has been changed. So that was a brief introduction to block coding using Blockly. To get started with the next activity, I'm going to choose Activity. I'm going to narrow the activity search down to ones created by code.org because we know the version of code.org, the free one, is on the approval use in our district. I'm going to choose that I have computer. That's the technology that I have. In the next activity, Angry Birds, we're going to work with some angry birds. We're going to help the angry bird move through a maze to get to the pig that stole its eggs. Before we get started, I want to point out that each activity has great resources. One of the great resources included is a step-by-step lesson plan. So each lesson has an overview, objectives, a purpose, preparation, standards, an agenda, vocabulary, a teaching guide, getting started, activity details, warm-up, assessment, extended learning, and differentiation suggestions. So now let's go back and click on the quick link to the activity. So I wanted to point out that at the beginning of both of the activities I'm showing you, there is a brief 2-minute tutorial to get you started. It also gives you a little bit of background information about each activity. Now let's help that angry bird move through a maze to get to the pig that stole his eggs. So the first thing we will do is hit run to try our program. So that sound lets us know we did something incorrectly. The hint says keep coding, some things not quite right yet. Drag a move block and snap it below the other block. I'm going to reset and I'm going to run. So we have finished the first activity. So let's continue. Our instructions for activity 2 says, this pig is ruffling my feathers. Help me to find him. So we need to look, the angry bird is here, and we're trying to get the angry bird to the pig. So if we move the angry bird 1, 2, 3 moves forward, that should get him to the pig. So we're going to move our move forward block. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to press run. Perfect. We've completed puzzle 2. Now we're going to continue to puzzle 3. So our instructions say, trace the path and lead me to the silly pig. Avoid TNT or the feathers will fly. So if we take a look at our bird, we know that he needs to move 2 spaces forward. There's one there, so we're going to add another one. So let's run and see what happens. Not quite. You have to use a block you aren't using yet. And notice here we can get a clue if we want to. So let's say yes. And then it tells you, try using a block like this to solve the puzzle. So notice the bird is here, so he's going to need to turn right. And then he's going to need to move 1 space forward. So let's reset it and try it again. Congratulations, we've completed puzzle 3. Let's continue to puzzle 4. Level 4 instructions. Guide me to the green evilness. Watch out for the TNT. Okay? Angry Bird is going to need to move forward 1. He's going to need to turn to the left. Move forward 1. Turn to the right. And then move forward. Notice when I play this, it's going to highlight each of the blocks. Congratulations, you've completed puzzle 4. Let's continue. Level 5 is a continuation of forward moves, right and left turns. So I'm going to skip over to level 6. In level 6, there's a way I can get to the pig using only 2 blocks. Can you figure it out? Okay, well, one way to get to the pig would be to use 5 move forward blocks, but they're wanting us to use only 2 blocks. So if you notice here, we have something new. We have a repeat block. So if I move the repeat block here, and then I move my move forward block within the repeat block, now I'm telling it I want it to move forward 5 times. So we've completed that puzzle. Let's move to the next one. Level 7 and 8 are practice using the repeat block. So let's move to level 9. Instructions say, when a block is gray, that means you can't delete it. Solve the puzzle using the repeat block that repeats 3 times. Try putting these 3 blocks inside the gray repeat block. Move, move, turn. Blocks that are gray can't be deleted. Can you solve the puzzle? So I'm going to put a repeat inside the repeat. Then I'm going to move forward. And he's going to move forward again. And then he's going to take a right. And he's going to repeat this 2 times. So let's run it. That was a brief introduction to block coding using Blockly. I showed you 2 of the many options there are to choose from. Usually the further you get into the activity, the more challenging it is. Now one of my team members is going to do an introduction to Python coding.
Please welcome Emma as she takes you through Python coding.
Now that we've looked at block coding, let's take a look at a different coding language under the Hour of Code website. We're going to take a look at some of the Python coding activities. So you may be asking yourself, what is Python coding? Well, Python is a general purpose programming language, like you might hear with HTML or Java. This is known for its readability and simplicity because the syntax closely resembles that of natural language. So you might see commands like go to, move to. It closely resembles that natural language as you see it in the syntax of the code. It's widely used in various fields, including like web development, some data science, machine learning, and specifically game development, so creating games and different types of simulations. So let's look at one of those games today. So here on our Hour of Code website, we're going to go to the search feature on the left-hand side, and we're going to simply type in Python so we can get those different activities. Now make sure that you're on the beginner version of the Python code. So as we scroll down here, you're going to see this Code Combat Build Your Own Game. So we're going to explore more of that game development as it relates to the syntax of Python. So go ahead and click in here in Code Combat, and as always, you'll see the screen pop up. You can see what different languages this is in, what standards it meets, as well as if there's any kind of teacher notes. So you can see here that this activity type is a self-led tutorial. So this game is going to take me step by step, if I was a student, through the different directions in order to complete the separate levels. So go ahead and click on Start. As this loads in a different window, you'll see here that you have some different options. You can see the educator resources right here, or you can see that I'm the student ready to code. So we're going to go ahead and click I'm a student to give you an actual image of what this looks like. So I can see first thing here is this bouncing arrow. It's wanting me to start in this position. And then I'm going to click play. Next, you can see here that I can choose my hero from the different people across the top. This shows me what their different skill types are, what their speed is like, so you can choose from any of those across the top. We're going to use programming language of Python for this, and the text code is our default. And then we're going to click on Next. So now you want to be able to click on different equipment for your character. Once again, we are game building, so this is more game based. And then you can see here some of the different things that you can do with your hero. These are the commands that I was talking about with a simplistic syntax. So move down moves the hero down, move left moves them left, move right moves them right, move up moves the hero up. So you can see how this different syntax or the command you're giving in the code directly relates to more natural language. So we're going to go ahead and click on Equip, and we're going to click on Play. So those arrows are guiding me to where I need to be. So I have my goals here. My goal is to avoid the spikes and collect the gem. So I see that I need to travel in these directions in order to get to my gem. So we're going to see here that it gives us some specific directions that your students can read, and you're going to be having them write the code in the editor on the right, and then they're going to click Run to run their program and see if they are reaching their goal. So we're going to go ahead and click Start Level. And you can see here, this is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the treasure. And then I can use these methods. So I can see here, these are the different steps that I need to take. And I can see where it's writing the syntax up here. And I've moved my hero right. They've given you those steps. So I've moved from the start position here. In order to get to the gym, I need to have critical thinking skills on where I need to move my hero next. So I can see here that there's no way to move right without running into the spikes, and left would take me back to the starting point. So I need to move my hero down in order to get closer to the gym. So I can either start typing here, hero, and then we're going to give it the command, and you can type or you can select here, move down. So I'm going to click Run and see where that gives me. So I can see now my hero is moving right and then moving down, and my goal is still incomplete because I have not yet reached the gym. So you can see here I've avoided the spikes, but I haven't reached the gym. So I have one more direction that I need to go in order to reach my gym. You can see here those critical thinking skills. Once again, the students have to realize what kind of barriers or challenges face them throughout the game. So they're writing the gameplay and navigating their character. So here we go. We're going to move our hero right one more time. So I can type up here. I can start with my syntax, and then I can click on Move Right. When I'm done, I will click on Run. There's also a hints button if you need to use that throughout the course. So you can see here I've run my program, I've avoided the spikes, I've collected the gem, and I've reached success for this level. So I'm going to move forward and click on Done. You can see here that I reach certain points just like you do in gameplay. So this is a great way for students to stay engaged and to kind of practice those different skills of the coding language, Python. So we want to be able to continue. Now your students, they do have to sign up to save their progress. However, you can move through this and be able to continue if you're doing this in one sitting. So we're going to click on continue. You can see now my bouncing arrow wants to take me to the second level. So I'm going to click and I'm going to play. Once again, I have different equipment. I can double click to equip. I have extra health, so if I run into spikes and use wrong coding, and then I'm going to click on play. So once again, my goals are to avoid the spikes and collect all of the gems. So I'm going to go ahead and click on start level. Okay, so they give me hero move right. I can see if I run this code, it moves me to the right. Now, two things happen here. You do have the ability to move up and grab the gem, or you can move down and grab these gems. But just remember that your goal is to collect all gems from this game. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to move my hero down. And when I choose down, I'm going to run again and see what my next step should be. So this is how your students are working through that thinking process and using those critical thinking skills. Because now I can see that I need to move up to get back to my original point. Once again, I'm going to click hero and I'm going to move up. Now, when I click run, you can see here that I go down, I go up, and then she stops again. So we know in order to get to this next gem up here, I'm going to have to move up once more. You have two ways to do that. So I have an action command where I can add a numerical value into this parentheses, or I can type this command one more time. For example, this is what a numerical value would look like. I know that I need to move up twice in order to get to this gem up here. So once again, I'm going to run my code. We're moving down and we're moving up 2 times. If I don't want to use numerical values, I can also type in this command again. So I can say hero move up, showing that I'm going to have this person move up twice. So one more time, we're going to run that code. We move down and we move up 2 times. So there's 2 ways to do that there. And our last one would be, we're going to move right, and then we know that's going to take us 1 space this way, and to get to our exit, we need to move down. I'm going to click run through our whole game, collect all of our gems, avoid the spikes, and reach our end goal. So we have success. So this is what Python coding is. These are the syntax that you need. There's different parentheses here for talking purposes, for text purposes, those numerical values which tell you how much movement of that specific command needs to happen. And then when we're done, we're going to click done. You can see here we've gained to the next level, we've collected more gems, experience points, and we're going to continue. So now you can see here that this hour of code game development is a great way for your students to kind of explore what game development looks like, creating games and different simulations, and giving those action commands to their hero as they move through the levels, as well as being able to automate repetitive tasks such as move up twice, like we showed in that example. So one more time, you're working through these different levels. It's guiding you with instructions. Each level, as in a normal video game, would get more difficult as you experience, but it guides you, the teacher, and the student with the directions needed to complete each item. All right, back on our Hour of Code website, let's look at our second Python coding activity for this example. So we're going to scroll down here until we see something called transformation puzzles. That activity is going to be our next one to look at. Right here, this is from Codesters, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Once again, you get your information in your teacher notes. This is the beginner experience. It is also a self-led tutorial, so there's different steps throughout each part of this activity. And you can see here too that you also get teacher notes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that so you can see what that looks like. It gives you a lesson overview, how to get started, how to wrap up the activity, and it tells you who the audience should be, and runs you through different vocabulary, so you could tie this in with one of your math lessons if you wanted. And you can see here that it goes through that whole lesson plan for you with some different examples for extension activities and common errors that you can see in the syntax of the coding. So let's go back to our Hour of Code website and get started. You can see here that I'm greeted with the transformation examples lesson objectives, so I as a student would be able to see what the purpose of this lesson would be. So I can go through here, the objectives, and I'm going to click on Get Started. Now let me familiarize you with how Codesters works. You can see these different bubbles across the top. These are all of the activities that it'll walk you through within this Transformation Puzzles lesson activity. You have the left-hand side is your toolkit, so it will run through the directions and tell you where to locate certain items. We have stage, which is like backgrounds. Sprites are considered to be our characters. We have different shapes that we can include, different events that we can include, and same thing with actions and physics. I'm also able to look at, once I select one of these categories, it gives me some different drop-down options throughout the whole toolkit. I can also do an individual search with the toolkit as you become more familiar and you know what it is that you want to search for. First, let's start with where the directions are. You can see here that this whole piece is your canvas. This is where you are creating your coding language, you're creating your actions, your background, what your character looks like and what they do. So we're going to click here to look at our preview. It always gives you a preview at the top. It tells you exactly what it is you're going to do for that particular activity that we're currently editing. We're currently working in this activity. And then it's going to give you a different breakdown of how to walk through to complete the activity step by step. So what I love about Codesters is it gives you those directions as a student to be able to move forward and kind of go through and check out your errors as you work. So we're going to follow the directions on the stage to see examples of these transformations. So you can see here, here's my stage. I'm supposed to click the triangle to see the translation in X. So I'm clicking on the triangle and I can see it's giving me another direction. Click to see a translation in Y. So I move again, click to see a rotation about the origin, one more time. And then I'm going to click it again to see the reflection over the X-axis. So last piece here. And when I'm done, I'm going to click on this ticket, and it also gives you certain questions. So your students can go through and answer these questions and then move forward. So describe what happens when a shape translates in the X direction. It's going to slide. What happens when it translates in the Y direction? It's going to also slide. What happens when a shape rotates about the origin? It's going to turn. And what happens when a shape reflects over the X-axis? This is a flip. And over the Y-axis is also going to be a flip. Now it tells me I did my Do Now ticket, and after you answer the questions, you click Submit, and then you click Next to move on. Now, you can see here that I have a red exclamation point on my activity for number 1. While it did let me move on to activity 2, I can see here that there's something that I need to go back and check in activity 1. So we'll go back, we go through the lesson objectives again. I'm going to click my ticket, answer the questions, resubmit the work, and move to the next activity. Now that they revised their work for activity 1, they'll receive that green check and they can move on to activity 2 with the full knowledge needed. Now, you can see here, once again, it's taking me step by step. So let's get started getting to know the toolkit. On the left-hand side of the screen, we're looking for the stage icon. And once we click it, we notice the blue blocks appear below. Okay, and now it wants me to find the block labeled Create Grid Overlay. So I'm going to scroll down. I know it's not an image. It's a setting for our background because we're trying to create that grid effect. So we're going to scroll here to where we see background settings, and we're going to create grid overlay. Click, hold, and drag it into blank space into our canvas below, and then release. So I'm clicking and I'm dragging. You can see there all of that different syntax. That is our Python coding language. So I'm going to drop it, and we can see that it creates it for me. Now it's going to count line by line because each action or piece of code is going to be on a separate line. That way it is easier to debug if you do have a mistake within your code. You can come back here to the separate lines and check that. If you see something with a hashtag, the hashtag is a comment. This is not a piece of the code. So you can see here that this grayed out right here is a comment for us to be able to see. This is the action. We're creating a stage or background, and we're wanting it to create a grid overlay. And then we can see here that these two numbers, we have a numerical value and we have text. We have that in quotation marks here, so we know that we want it to say something, and we want the increments of that grid overlay to move in the pixels 50. So now that I've done that, I'm going to be able to run to see my changes. I'm going to click Submit, and I'm going to click Next. Once again, green check mark. So let's move through some of these other pieces of the toolkit. So all of the tools that we're going to use today are going to come from Geometry section of the toolkit. So what we need to do is, as we're looking at graphics first, there is a tab for Logic, but we know that Geometry is a subject. So we're going to click on Subject, and then we have Geometry. So I'm going to click on Geometry, and I'm going to drag out Triangle. You can see here that it also kind of has that highlight to guide your students. So I'm going to click, drag, and drop. We see here that it's saying sprite. A sprite is a character or an object. So this character equals Codesters. That's the name of this website. And we're naming it Sprite because we're saying the character from this website, we want it to be a triangle. That is what that syntax is saying. So make sure you get a green message once we click Run. We did a great job. We can click Submit, and then we can move on. Submit and move on. Green check, next assignment. So now we're going to move through one more step. I'll do these 3 steps with you, and then you can run through this on your own as you read this direction and move forward in your code. So now the stage is a coordinate plane. So here's our stage. It is a coordinate plane. We've told it to create that grid overlay with the 50 increments on it. So you can see 50 in increments. And we wanted the lines to be gray. We wanted the object here to be a triangle. So we see this. And now we can see that in our directions that we need to move the triangle to the point labeled goal. So we can see right here that this point is labeled goal. So I need to get the origin of my triangle to the goal right here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to change the 0, 0 in the command. Here's my command on line 4. We're telling the character or the object, so we see sprite, we know that we're working with our triangle, and we're telling it that it needs to go to a certain area on the graph. So right now it is sitting at point 0, 0. If I need to move it, I'm first looking at the x-axis. So I'm saying that I'm going to need it to go over 2 spaces so I can align it with the goal. So my first one here, our x-axis, is going to change to 100. And then I need to make sure that the vertex lands on the goal. So we know that we've moved it now. We've slid it over to 100, and now we need to go up 50, 100, 150. So we're staying in that positive quadrant. So my y value needs to be 150. Now I'm going to run my program to see my changes. It gives that reminder to your students that the x-coordinate is that first number and the y-coordinate is the second number. So we know that we're moving that vertex to 100 and then up to 150. So run our program, see what happens. We did a great job. We can submit our work, and now we can move forward. So as you're running through, just remember that the stage is the background, and then the sprite is the object that you're working with. You do have those coordinates right here that you're going to be working with in the value as it relates to your coordinate plane. So this would be a really great activity to do with your middle schoolers or high schoolers as they're working in the coordinate plane, to try to give them that piece of critical thinking as well as this coding language, a great skill for them to be able to utilize in future positions. I hope you enjoyed Python coding.
A special thank you to both Diane and Emma for walking us through block and Python coding. Hopefully you feel more confident with it and will try with your students. And now here's Lori to take us through your Canvas course and go over how you can receive in-service points for participating in creative coding. Take it away, Lori.
So now that you've gone through the activities that were suggested, if you're interested in getting in-service points for this course, here's what you need to do. The first requirement is to watch the Creative Coding video that you're now watching in the Creative Coding Canvas course. Next, in the Getting Started module, you'll see a link to the Creative Coding Choice Board. Select this to guide you in choosing direct links to the activities that were shared in the tutorial video. You also have the option to use the free choice link and find activities with the grade level and topics appropriate for your class. Next, for your convenience, we have added an example lesson plan template for you to modify and to use. So come up with a lesson plan for the activity you select and get started using it in your classroom with your students. And finally, if you would like to receive credit for this course, in the follow-up module, you have 2 areas to complete. Answer the reflection questions for the activity you used with your students by replying to them in the forum. Then you're going to select a link to our flip video reflections, where you will record a video sharing why you're interested in using coding with your students and what makes it important for them to have these skills. When you select the Creative Coding link, you should be directed to log into Flip using your Google account. If for some reason you're unable to respond using the Flip video, you may pick option 2 as a backup way to respond. Once you've completed the follow-up, you will be awarded 2 in-service points in the Professional Learning Management System.
Thank you so much for participating. Our team is excited to see what you and your amazing students have created with creative coding. Don't forget your Canvas course and follow-up activities. We look forward to working with you again soon.